Hello, my name is Abel Vega, and I'm with the Rio, Texas conference. And I'm here with Amy Moritz. And so we want to share with you about the transformational communities of praxis. The vision for transformational communities of praxis is made up of local churches and other community partners actively seeking shalom through learning, relationship building, community development, and mutual support. And then the mission of transformational communities of praxis is to build a network of transformational communities by equipping locally embedded leaders with training and ongoing support for the work of shalom. You'll notice that word shalom is very much part of this program, and Amy will talk a little bit more about that. Our development team, which is really behind the scenes, just coordinating the program itself, is made up of myself as really the overall director, working with, in consultation with Amy Moritz, who is our primary consultant and has a plethora of experience over the last 10 years in working with various communities primarily in Memphis. And then Bob Clark, who's a pastor here in San Antonio, has been trained in communities of shalom and some practical experiences, particularly down the valley. And then Dionisio Salazar, whose primary forte is around facilitation methods and our trainer in facilitation methods. So trained 10 teams over the last 3 years. And so you can see where they're located within the Rio, Texas conference. And so we had 4 teams in 2017, and then 4 teams in 2018. We had 2 teams that were trained last year. I found that the principles of transformational communities of praxis really is transcendent beyond the locale itself. So it means that anywhere from rural to small town to urban settings, the principles are applicable to continue to train. What we're finding out this year, as we step particularly into 2020, is that there's significant readiness of the teams that have been trained over the last 3 years to really now go deeper in convening their community and really beginning to see the work that manifests out of that. And so with, on the website, you'll begin to see stories that speak to the changes that the participants are experiencing.
So, as Abel said, I'm Amy Moritz, and I have been part of the Transformational Communities of Praxis design team for the last 3 years and have really enjoyed working with the churches of the Rio, Texas conference. And my passion is really to work at the intersection of church and community, church and neighborhood, church and town, which this program is very much about. So as Abel said, we're looking to share information with you as you consider being part of the 2020 cohort. Becoming part of the cohort means that you go through a year-long training. And so I wanted to start with sharing with you a little bit of what you can expect after the end of that year. So you'll be invited to form a team, and we ideally look for you to have at least 5 people be part of that team, and ideally have a few people who are outside the congregation, maybe a nonprofit leader, a school principal. But so it's a team that's both from with inside the church and with outside. We go through several what we call mindset shifts during the course of the training, but one of the key ones by the end of the training is to really help you and your team see your community not just as a place of scarcity and needs and problems, but also a place of abundance and gifts and assets and resources. You'll be given some tools to build new relationships with your neighbors and with other community stakeholders. You'll be given some practices for leading community initiatives in new and innovating and relational ways. By the time you're done with the training, you'll actually engage more of your community and together come up with the beginnings of a plan of action for seeking the shalom or the well-being of your church's context. And because you'll be in this training for a year with other teams from across the conference, you'll be building your own sense of community and learning with each other as you make this journey. This slide shows you what you can expect during the course of the training. We've divided it into 3 learning sessions. Learning session 1 takes place over 2 days, learning session 2 over 3, and then learning session 3 back to 2 days. We spread this from across the year, so you've got some time in between the sessions. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the content of the training in a few more slides. But I wanted to just point out to you that in learning session 3, we'll actually accompany you back to your church and community and help you begin to put some of the tools that you've learned in session 1 and 2 into practice in your own context, in your own place. And there are a couple of optional training opportunities that are available to you should you choose to go a little bit deeper into some of the things that you are learning. Abel mentioned the word shalom, and this is really important to our transformational communities of praxis. It's what grounds us. This comes from Jeremiah 29:7, where God tells us to seek the shalom or the well-being or the prosperity or the welfare of the place where we are, because it's in its welfare that we find our own welfare. And so this becomes foundational for why we embark on this transformational communities of praxis journey together. We also borrow from a national initiative that was launched by the United Methodist Church called Communities of Shalom, to also use this framework throughout our time together in the first year. And so just briefly, the S of Shalom reminds us that we are called to, yes, do acts of charity, but to also ask questions of why people are in need of charity and look at doing initiatives that provide sustainable change and systemic change. We are invited with the H to look at our communities holistically. And so while we are called to care for the spiritual health of our communities, we are also invited to look holistically at the economic well-being, the education, the built environment, and so on. Asset-based community development is about looking at our neighborhoods through a lens of what's there and what's strong. And love of God, neighbor, and self, as the great commandment, sits at the center of our acrostic. The program helps you get organized for action and seeking community transformation in your context. And throughout, we will be giving you tools to help you think about building collaborative relationships with other sectors of your community, whether it be other congregations, the government, other nonprofits, the business community, other cultures, etc. Asset-based community development. This is a way of looking at our communities. In the glass here, you see it, some might say it's half empty. You could also say it's half full. And so the way we see our communities helps determine what we can create. And so during the training, you'll be giving some tools and some opportunities to look at your community, not just through the lens of what's missing and what's needed, but also what are the resources and the strengths and the gifts that are already there. And then we'll walk alongside you as you begin to think about how do you connect them in creative and life-giving ways. Facilitative leadership, you will learn these skills. Our program really gives you the types of experiences you need to lead, not so much as a command and control leader or a top-down leader, but a leader who values asking great questions, a leader who values facilitating the participation of the full community. And so there's several methods that are part of this training. You'll be introduced to them. And that one of the optional opportunities is to participate in some training that actually allows you to develop your skills to be a facilitative leader in your own context. And then finally, there are some other components that you'll get to participate in as a part of being in the transformational communities of praxis. So we will assign one of our team to be a coach to accompany you along the journey, and we'll set up monthly conversations to help talk about what are the things you're wanting to accomplish in your community and how can we support you in doing that. There are opportunities to have the team come to your location and do workshops on site. And you will then become part of this growing network. We currently have 10 people who participated in the program, and you'll be joining them and learning from their stories and from the journey that they have been on ahead of you. Abel?
Yeah, so here this gives you a glimpse of the program timeline over the course of the year. The deadline for receiving applications for 2020 teams is January the 8th. Once we have the 4 teams or those that have applied, we will then call you to an orientation session via Zoom on the 31st of January, and this will just orient you towards the full year of what to expect and just to how to prepare yourself for that. Then you can see the 3 learning session intensives. That essentially would begin at noon on Friday and go to about mid-afternoon on Saturday. The second session in May is a little bit longer because we on Friday is a full day training of facilitation, particularly focused conversation method, and then the third session is kind of going through what you learned, but then also scheduling out those Saturday sessions. And then the other component you can see here are some what we're calling connectional learning events, and so there's some events that each team could go to using some funds that the program allows, for your continued learning. And then again, we'll be looking for teams for 2021. So that's really the outlay for this coming year. We're excited about what's in store for 2020. As a development team, we've seen we're seeing great things happening out of the communities that have been trained, and we expect to see more in this coming year, particularly as we get out in the field with them, these teams, and so as you consider applying for any more information, contact me at avega@riotexas.org or the office number here, 210-408-4514. You can go online to our website, tcopraxis.org, to get an application and of course get this information in written form. So thank you for your time, and so we look forward to hearing from you. God bless.
Transformational Communities of Praxis, training leaders, transforming the world.